Admiral Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Imperial Dawn, watching the strange vessel on his main screen. The ship looked wrong. It was too smooth, too clean, and it moved in ways that made his experienced officers nervous. The alien craft had appeared at the edge of what their intelligence called human space just 3 hours ago. "Sir, we've tried all standard communication channels," reported his communications officer, Lieutenant Kornas. "They're responding, but in a language our computers don't recognize." Vextar's 4 eyes narrowed. In 3,000 years of galactic expansion, the Zephyrian Empire had encountered over 200 species. Every single one had eventually learned to speak Imperial Standard. These humans were being difficult. "Keep trying. Use the translation protocols we developed for the Andorian First Contact." The Zephyrian fleet consisted of 12 heavy cruisers and 40 escort ships, more than enough to handle one unknown vessel, no matter how strange it looked. Vextar had conquered entire systems with less firepower. Minutes passed. Then the communications console chirped with an incoming message. "Admiral, they're responding in broken Imperial Standard now. Put it through." The voice that came through the speakers was clear and oddly calm. "Zephyrian vessels, this is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth ship Defiance. We mean no harm. We're on a peaceful exploration mission." Vextar activated his reply channel. "Human vessel, you have entered space claimed by the Zephyrian Empire. By Imperial law, you must submit to inspection and registration. Prepare to be boarded." A pause. Then Captain Chen's voice returned, still calm but with something else underneath. "I'm afraid we can't do that, Admiral. We're in what we consider international space. We have no wish for conflict, but we won't submit to boarding." The bridge fell silent. In Vextar's experience, unknown species either attacked immediately or surrendered once they saw Imperial firepower. This polite refusal was new. "Human, you misunderstand your situation. You have 1 ship. I have 52. Submit now or we will disable your vessel and take you by force. Admiral, I really hope you reconsider. This doesn't have to become unpleasant." Vextar's patience ran out. He'd given them more chances than most species received. "Weapons, prepare to fire. Target their engines only. I want them alive for questioning." "Weapons." "Charged and ready, sir," called his weapons officer. "Fire." 12 heavy plasma cannons fired at once, their beams designed to disable rather than destroy. The brilliant blue energy lanced across space toward the human ship and passed through. Empty space, the Defiance was simply gone. "Where did they go?" Vextar demanded, his voice rising. "Sensors, report." "Sir, I'm not detecting them anywhere in the system. They just disappeared." "That's impossible. No ship can jump that fast. Check your equipment." Lieutenant Kornas's hands flew over his console. "All systems functioning normally, sir. But Admiral, there's something else. Right before they vanished, I detected an energy signature unlike anything in our databases." Vextar stared at the empty space where the human ship had been. "Show me." The sensor logs. The main screen filled with data streams and energy readings. The pattern was unlike anything Vextar had seen in 30 years of military service. The energy signature didn't match any known faster-than-light technology. It didn't match any technology at all. "Sir," his science officer called out, "I'm analyzing the residual energy patterns. This isn't hyperspace technology. This isn't even based on quantum mechanics as we understand them. It's like they folded space itself." "That's impossible." "Yes. Sir, it should be. But the readings are clear." Vextar walked to the science station and studied the data himself. The numbers made no sense. The amount of energy required to manipulate spacetime directly should have destroyed any ship attempting it, yet the human vessel had done it casually, as if it were the most natural thing in the universe. "Admiral," the communications officer interrupted, "we're receiving another message." "From where?" "I'm not sure, sir. The signal is coming from everywhere and nowhere at once." Captain Chen's voice filled the bridge again. "Admiral Vextar, I'm sorry about that. We don't like running from conversations, but your weapons made our defensive systems nervous. We're about 50 light years away now, just in case you were wondering." 50 light-years in seconds. Vextar felt something cold form in his stomach. How? He transmitted back. How what, Admiral? How did you travel 50 light-years instantly? What kind of drive system do you use? Another pause. When Chen spoke again, there was something like amusement in her voice. Admiral, I think there might be some basic differences in how our species approach engineering problems. Perhaps we should arrange a proper meeting sometime, somewhere neutral. You will answer my questions, human. Admiral, I've been polite, because I believe in diplomacy. But let's be clear about something. You just tried to attack my ship. In human culture, that's considered rude. I'm willing to overlook it this time, but I'd suggest being more careful in future encounters. The transmission ended. Vexitar stared at the empty space again. A single ship had made his entire fleet look foolish. Worse, they'd done it without firing a shot or showing any signs of strain. The human captain had sounded more annoyed than threatened. Sir, what are your orders? Asked his second in command. Vextar was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. Set course for the capital. Emergency speed. Sir? What about pursuing the humans? With what? Did you see what they just did? They made our entire understanding of physics look like a child's toy. As the Imperial fleet turned toward home, Vextar couldn't stop thinking about Captain Chen's words. She'd called it an engineering problem, as if moving instantly across 50 light-years was just another technical challenge to solve. Hours later, as they traveled through hyperspace toward the Empire's capital world, Vexitar reviewed the encounter, records again and again. Each time the same impossible reading stared back at him. The humans had technology that shouldn't exist, operated by principles that made no sense. But what worried him most was how casually they'd used it. The Defiance hadn't strained or overheated or shown any signs of stress. The crew hadn't sounded surprised or excited by their escape. It was routine for them. If that was routine, what could they do when they really tried? Vextar sent an urgent message to Imperial Command. First contact with human species completed. Results concerning. Request immediate audience with the Emperor. This cannot wait for standard reports. The response came back within an hour. Audience granted. Priority level Alpha. Prepare full briefing on human capabilities. As his ship continued toward the capital, Vextar wondered if he was about to deliver the most important intelligence report in Imperial history, or the most terrifying. Behind them, 50 light-years away, the Defiance waited in empty space. Captain Chen sat in her command chair reviewing her own reports. Ma'am, said her science officer, should we inform Earth Command about the contact? Chen nodded. Send a full report. Include my assessment that these Zephyrians seem reasonable enough, just set in their ways. They might be worth talking to properly once they get over the shock. The shock, ma'am? Chen smiled. They seem to think faster-than-light travel is difficult. Emperor Kethmore sat in his private study, reading Admiral Vextar's report for the third time. The crystalline walls of his palace overlooked the capital city of Zephyr Prime, where billions of citizens went about their daily lives, unaware that everything they believed about technology might be wrong. Impossible, he murmured, just as his ancestors had said about every major breakthrough in Imperial history. But this time, he feared the word might actually mean something. A soft chime announced an arrival. Dr. Yilnasa entered, carrying a datapad and wearing the expression of someone who had discovered something she wished she hadn't. Your Imperial Majesty, she said, bowing low. I've completed the initial analysis of the sensor data from Admiral Vextar's encounter. And? Dr. Yilnasa was the Empire's finest physicist, a woman who had spent 60 years pushing the boundaries of known science. She had never looked as troubled as she did now. Majesty, if this data is accurate, the humans are using technology that violates several fundamental laws of physics. The Emperor gestured for her to continue. Their faster-than-light method doesn't use hyperspace at all. Instead, they appear to manipulate the fabric of space-time directly, creating what I can only call a fold in reality itself. The energy requirements for such a feat should be enormous. Yet our sensors detected no unusual power signatures beforehand. Perhaps their sensors are simply better hidden than ours. That's what I thought initially, Majesty. But I've run the calculations dozens of times. Even if we assume their technology is 10 times more efficient than ours, they would still need the power output of a small star to accomplish what Admiral Vextar witnessed. Emperor Kethmore stood and walked to the window. Far below, Imperial. Ships moved through the atmosphere following traffic patterns established over centuries. Predictable, orderly, safe. What else? The hull composition readings are equally disturbing. Their ship appears to be constructed from materials that register as impossible on our sensors. The molecular density readings fluctuate in patterns that suggest their hull can alter its physical properties in real time. Shape-shifting armor? More than that, Majesty. The readings suggest they can control matter at the quantum level. Their ship's hull isn't just strong or flexible, it's programmable. The Emperor was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he turned back to his chief scientist. Dr. Yilnasa, in your professional opinion, how long would it take a newly spacefaring species to develop such capabilities? Under normal circumstances? Thousands of years, minimum. Majesty, what the humans demonstrated represents technology, so advanced that our own scientists would need centuries just to understand the basic principles involved. Then they must be using inherited technology. Ancient ruins, perhaps, or guidance from a more advanced species. Dr. Yilnasa shook her head. I considered that possibility, but Intelligence Division has been monitoring human communications for weeks now. Their transmission suggests they developed all of this themselves, and recently. How recently? Based on their historical broadcasts, they achieved faster-than-light travel less than 50 years ago. Their first spaceflight was only about a century before that. The Emperor felt something cold settle in his chest. That's impossible. Yes, Majesty. It should be. A communication chime interrupted them. Enter, the Emperor called. General Thaxwar, head of Imperial Intelligence, strode in with the purposeful gait of someone bearing urgent news. Majesty, Dr. Yilnasa, our deep reconnaissance mission has returned from human space. Already? The Emperor had only authorized the mission 2 weeks ago. They were detected and politely escorted out by human patrol vessels, Majesty, but not before gathering significant intelligence. Show me. General Thaxwar activated a holographic display in the center of the room. Images of human space installations appeared, along with intercepts of their communications and detailed sensor readings. Majesty, what we discovered is both better and worse than we feared. The first image showed a human space station. It looked deceptively simple, almost primitive compared to Imperial architecture. But the sensor readings told a different story. This is a standard human research facility, Thaxwar explained. Note the energy signatures. They're generating power levels that should require antimatter reactors. Yet we detect no antimatter containment systems. How are they doing it? We don't know. But observe this. The image changed to show a human cargo ship. This vessel was carrying what their communications indicated was standard construction materials. Our sensors identified substances that don't exist on the periodic table. Dr. Yilnasa leaned forward. Artificial elements? Not artificial, Doctor. Our analysis suggests these materials exist in a quantum state that allows them to exhibit multiple sets of physical properties simultaneously. That's... Dr. Yilnasa paused. Actually, that explains some of the readings from Admiral Vexitar's encounter. If their hull materials can exist in multiple quantum states, they could theoretically phase through normal matter. Emperor Kethmore absorbed this information. General, what about their military capabilities? That's where things become truly concerning, Majesty. We observed several human vessels that appeared to be military escorts. However, Admiral Vextar's report indicates that the ship he encountered was listed in their databases as an exploration vessel, not a warship. Meaning we still have no clear picture of what human military technology is actually capable of. The hologram changed again, showing communication intercepts. We did manage to decode some of their internal communications. The humans appear to view the encounter with Admiral Vextar as routine. One of their officers described it as another first contact situation requiring standard diplomatic protocols. Standard diplomatic protocols, the Emperor repeated slowly. Yes, Majesty. They have standard procedures for dealing with hostile alien encounters. This suggests they've had similar experiences before. Dr. Yilnasa spoke up. Majesty, if I may, there's something else in the data that concerns me. The humans don't seem to view their technology as particularly advanced. In several intercepted communications, they refer to their faster-than-light drives as basic transportation and their quantum manipulation techniques as standard engineering. Which means what we witnessed might represent the absolute minimum of their technological capabilities, not the maximum. Emperor Kethmore returned to his desk and sat down heavily. For 3 millennia, the Zephyrian Empire had been the dominant technological power in the galaxy. They had conquered, absorbed, or allied with every species they encountered through superior firepower and advanced science. Now they had encountered a species that made their greatest achievements look primitive. Recommendations? He asked. General, Thaxwar stepped forward. Majesty, I believe we need to determine the full extent of human capabilities. I recommend a more direct approach. Send a larger fleet with more advanced sensors and push them harder. Make them show us what they can. Really do. Dr. Yilnasa looked alarmed. General, I would strongly advise against antagonizing a species whose technology we don't understand. Doctor, we can't make informed decisions based on fear of the unknown. This isn't fear, General. This is prudence. What if we push them too hard and discover that their standard engineering includes weapons we can't defend against? Emperor Kethmore raised a hand for silence. Both advisors looked at him expectantly. General, prepare a series of graduated encounters. Start with diplomatic approaches, but be ready to escalate if necessary. I want to know what we're dealing with. And if they prove hostile, Majesty? The Emperor stared out the window again. In the distance, Imperial patrol ships moved in perfect formation, following routes and procedures refined over centuries of absolute technological supremacy. Then we'll learn exactly how much trouble we're in. 3 weeks before Admiral Chen's arrival at Zephyr Prime, President Elena Martinez sat in the Situation Room deep beneath Geneva Earth. Around the polished table, the greatest minds in human space had gathered for an emergency session. The Yaobrai holographic display showed Imperial ship movements throughout the galaxy, each red dot representing another probe into human territory. They're not going to stop, said General Harrison, commander of Earth Defense Forces. Every encounter makes them more aggressive, not less. Dr. Elena Vasquez, head of the Department of Applied Physics, leaned back in her chair. I think they're trying to force us to reveal our capabilities. They can't understand what they're seeing, so they're pushing harder to get better data. President Martinez nodded. Which brings us to the central question, how much do we tell them? Nothing, General Harrison said immediately. The moment they understand what we're capable of, they'll either surrender completely or attack with everything they have. Neither outcome serves our interests. Dr. Vasquez disagreed. Actually, General, I think our secrecy is making things worse. They're clearly intelligent, but they're operating from false assumptions about how technology works. Explain, the President requested. Dr. Vasquez stood and activated the room's secondary display. It showed a comparison chart between human and Imperial technology development. Look at their pattern of advancement, she said. 3,000 years of steady, incremental progress. They perfect each technology over centuries before moving to the next step. It's methodical, stable, and completely predictable. And it's completely unlike how humans approach problems. The display changed to show human technological development over the past 2 centuries. The progression looked like an explosion, rather than a steady climb. We don't perfect existing technology, Dr. Vasquez continued. We replace it. When we needed better engines, we didn't improve chemical rockets. We invented fusion drives. When fusion wasn't enough, we didn't build bigger fusion drives. We learned to manipulate gravity directly. Secretary of Defense Williams looked puzzled. That's just good engineering practice. Why is it relevant? Because it means we're using technologies that other species never thought to investigate. They see our ships doing impossible things because they're measuring us against their understanding of physics. Admiral Chen, attending by holographic link from her flagship, spoke up. Dr. Vasquez is right. In every encounter, the Zephyrians act like we're using some kind of ancient alien technology. They can't accept that we developed everything ourselves. Why not? Dr. Vasquez pulled up another chart. Because according to their model of technological development, what we've achieved should take thousands of years. They look at our timeline and see impossibility. President Martinez studied the data. How long did it actually take us to develop? Faster than light travel. From first concept to working prototype, 18 months. 18 months? Secretary Williams looked shocked. I thought it was decades of research. The research took decades. Dr. Vasquez agreed. But once Dr. Kim had the breakthrough about folding space-time instead of moving through it, building the actual drive was relatively simple. Simple for us, Admiral Chen added. But remember, Dr. Kim's breakthrough came because she was trying to solve a completely different problem. She was working on better waste disposal for space stations. President Martinez had to smile at that. So our greatest technological achievement came from trying to handle garbage more efficiently? That's very human, Dr. Vasquez said. We don't approach problems the way other species do. When we encounter something impossible, we don't accept it as a limitation. We ask why it's impossible and whether that reason actually matters. General Harrison looked skeptical. You make it sound like we're inherently superior to other species. Not superior. Different. The Zephyrians have created a stable, prosperous civilization that's lasted 3 millennia. That takes wisdom and patience we haven't demonstrated yet. But they've been using the same basic technologies for centuries, Admiral Chen pointed out. They perfect each system but never fundamentally reimagine it. Dr. Vasquez nodded. Exactly. When they needed better weapons, they made more powerful energy beams. When we needed better weapons, we learned to weaponize gravity itself. When they needed better armor, they developed stronger materials. When we needed better armor, we made hull plating that exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Which explains why they think our technology is impossible, President Martinez concluded. More than impossible. Unnecessary. From their perspective, why would anyone develop dimension-shifting armor when you could just make stronger metal? Secretary Williams raised a hand. I'm still not clear on something. Our ships really are impossibly powerful compared to theirs, right? This isn't just a misunderstanding? Dr. Vasquez was quiet for a moment. Define powerful, Mr. Secretary. Could we defeat their entire empire in a war? That's not the right question to ask. Why not? Dr. Vasquez looked around the table. Because we've never actually tested our military technology against a real opponent. Everything the Zephyrians have seen has been exploration vessels and colony defense ships. The room fell silent. What exactly are you saying, Doctor? President, Martinez asked carefully. I'm saying that the ships Admiral Chen has been using represent about 15% of our actual technological capabilities. The Harmony and her sister ships were designed for exploration and colony protection. They're not military vessels. General Harrison leaned forward. Then what would happen if we deployed actual military ships? Dr. Vasquez hesitated. Honestly, I'm not sure. We've never needed to find out. Admiral Chen's holographic image flickered as she processed this information. Dr. Vasquez, are you telling me that there are human ships I don't know about? Not ships, Admiral. Technologies, weapons systems, defense networks. Things we developed because we could, not because we needed them. Such as, well, there's the quantum disruption array that can make entire star systems temporarily cease to exist. The temporal manipulation system that can slow time around enemy ships until they're effectively frozen. The matter converter that can transform any solid object into any other solid object. The silence stretched longer this time. President Martinez spoke carefully. Doctor, why haven't these systems been deployed to our fleet? Because we've never faced a threat that required them. The Zephyrians are using technology we mastered decades ago. Deploying our current military capabilities against them would be like using nuclear weapons against someone throwing rocks. General Harrison looked troubled. But they don't know this. No, they don't. From their perspective, they're seeing impossible technology and assuming it represents our maximum capability. When in fact, they're seeing the equivalent of our transportation department handling a traffic dispute. President Martinez stood and walked to the window overlooking the city. Outside, the lights of Geneva twinkled in the evening air, peaceful and serene. It was hard to believe that this small planet commanded technology that could reshape the fabric of reality itself. "Recommendations?" she asked. Admiral Chen spoke first. "I think we need to be honest with them. Not about everything, but about the basic truth. We're not using ancient alien technology. We developed everything ourselves, using approaches they never considered. That might frighten them more, not less," Secretary Williams pointed out. "Perhaps," Dr. Vasquez said, "but fear based on truth is better than fear based on imagination. Right now, they think we might be the remnants of some ancient super-civilization, or that we found impossible technology in alien ruins. And the truth is? The truth is that we're a young species that solves problems by refusing to accept that problems can't be solved." President Martinez turned back to the table. "Dr. Vasquez, in your opinion, what would happen if we demonstrated our actual military capabilities? They would surrender immediately, or they would attack us with everything they have, believing they're fighting for the survival of their civilization. And if we continue hiding our capabilities, they'll keep escalating, trying to find our limits. Eventually, they'll push us into a situation where we have to respond with our real technology." President Martinez nodded slowly. "Admiral Chen, I'm authorizing you to request a meeting with Emperor Kethmore. It's time for a proper conversation." "What should I tell him, Madam President?" "The truth. All of it." Captain Sarah Chen, now Admiral Chen, stood in the command center of the UES Harmony, watching 3 Imperial fleets converge on the human colony at New Geneva. The Zephyrians had been testing human responses for 6 months now, each encounter more aggressive than the last. "Admiral," reported Commander Walsh, "the Imperial fleets are demanding the colonists evacuate immediately. They claim New Geneva is in violation of some territorial agreement we never signed." Chen nodded. The pattern was becoming predictable. The Zephyrians would find some legal excuse to justify their aggression, send overwhelming force, then act surprised when human ships appeared to defend the colony. "How many ships do they have this time?" 127 vessels, ma'am, including 3 of their heavy dreadnoughts. "I see they're escalating again." Chen turned to her navigation officer. "Lieutenant Park, are the Phoenix and Endeavour in position?" "Yes, ma'am, both ships report ready." Chen activated the communication system. "Imperial Fleet Commander, this is Admiral Chen of the United Earth Navy. You are threatening a peaceful human colony. Withdraw immediately." The reply came quickly, delivered in the arrogant tone that had become familiar over the past months. "Human Admiral, you are outnumbered 40 to 1. Your 3 ships cannot protect this illegal settlement. Surrender now and your people will be relocated safely." Chen smiled. The Zephyrians still hadn't learned the most important lesson about humans. Numbers meant very little when technology was involved. "Commander, I'll give you one more chance. Leave now or we'll make you leave." Laughter echoed through the communication channel. "Admiral, you cannot be serious. We have analyzed your ships thoroughly. Your weapons are adequate, but they cannot penetrate our shields in sufficient numbers." "You analyzed our ships?" Chen turned to Commander Walsh. "Did you hear that? They think they've analyzed our ships." Walsh grinned. "Should I tell them about the new upgrades, ma'am?" "Not yet. Let's see what they try first." The Imperial commander's voice returned. "You have 30 seconds to surrender, or we will open fire." Chen waited. Around her, the bridge crew worked calmly, monitoring systems and preparing for combat. There was no tension, no fear. Fighting Zephyrian ships had become routine. "Time's up," the Imperial commander announced. "All ships, open fire." 127 Imperial warships fired simultaneously. The space around New Geneva lit up with energy beams, plasma bolts, and missile trails. It was the largest display of Imperial firepower ever assembled against human forces. The barrage struck the 3 human ships and passed through them harmlessly. Phase. Shift complete, reported Lieutenant Park. All ships operating in Quantum State 7. Chen activated her communication system again. Imperial Commander, you missed. Impossible. Our sensors showed direct hits. Your sensors are correct. You did hit us. The problem is that we weren't actually here when you did it. On the main screen, Chen could see the Imperial ships repositioning, their commanders no doubt demanding explanations from their weapons officers. She'd seen this reaction before. Commander Walsh, I think it's time for a demonstration. Target the lead dreadnought. Gravitational lance, minimum power. Aye, ma'am. Gravitational lance charging. The Harmony's main weapon was invisible to conventional sensors. It didn't fire energy or projectiles. Instead, it created a focused gravitational field that could crush matter at the quantum level. Firing, Walsh announced. The Imperial dreadnought simply crumpled, not from the outside in, like a ship being crushed by external pressure, but from every point simultaneously, as if gravity itself had decided the ship was too heavy to exist. The effect was instantaneous and absolute. One moment there was a 2-kilometer-long warship. The next moment there was a sphere of compressed metal barely 50 meters across. Imperial Commander, Chen transmitted. That was our least powerful weapon set to minimum intensity. Would you like to see what happens when we try harder? The response was immediate. All ships, retreat. Full speed. Chen watched as the Imperial fleet scattered in every direction, their formation collapsing into panic. Some ships jumped to hyperspace immediately. Others tried to flee at sublight speed, as if distance might protect them from weapons that manipulated the fundamental forces of the universe. Shall we pursue, Admiral? Asked Commander Walsh. No need. Let them report back to their Emperor. But as the Imperial ships fled, Chen noticed something troubling. 3 of the smaller vessels weren't retreating. Instead, they were moving toward the human colony itself. Admiral, called Lieutenant Park, those ships are on an attack vector for New Geneva. They're going after civilians, Chen realized. All ships intercept immediately. The 3 human vessels dropped out of their quantum phase state and accelerated toward the attacking ships. But even with their superior speed, they wouldn't arrive in time. Chen made a decision that would change everything. Computer, activate the planetary defense grid. Admiral, Commander Walsh said quietly. The defense grid isn't supposed to exist. According to all official records, New Geneva is a civilian colony with no military installations. I know what the records say, Commander. Around New Geneva, space itself began to change. The planet seemed to flicker, as if it were having trouble deciding whether to exist or not. Then, suddenly, massive structures appeared in orbit. Defense platforms that had been hidden in dimensional pockets materialized, their weapons already charging. But the most shocking change was to the planet itself. New Geneva began to phase partially out of normal spacetime, becoming translucent and ghostly. The attacking Imperial ships fired their weapons, but the energy beams passed through the planet harmlessly. What in the name of the ancestors is that? Came a panicked transmission from one of the Imperial ships. Chen opened a general communication channel. This is Admiral Chen to all Imperial vessels. New Geneva is under the protection of Earth Defense Command. Any attack on our civilians will be considered an act of war. Admiral, the Imperial commander transmitted from his fleeing flagship, what have you done to that planet? We've put it somewhere safe, Chen replied matter-of-factly. Don't worry, the colonists are fine. They're just existing in a slightly different dimensional phase for the moment. As the remaining Imperial ships retreated, Chen received an urgent message from Earth Command. President Martinez herself appeared on the communication screen. Admiral Chen, I trust you had a good reason for revealing the Dimensional Defense Network? They were targeting civilians, Madam President. I felt it was time to make a point. President Martinez was quiet for a moment. Very well. But this changes things. The Zephyrians now know that we can make entire planets untouchable. They'll want answers. Then perhaps it's time we gave them some. 3 days later, Admiral Chen received new orders. She was to take a small task force to the heart of Imperial space and request a meeting with Emperor Kethmore himself. The message was to be delivered personally, in the most secure location the Empire possessed. Chen studied the coordinates she'd been given. The Imperial capital system was protected by orbital fortresses, patrol fleets, and weapon platforms that could destroy entire armadas. No foreign vessel had ever been permitted within 100 light-years of Zephyr Prime. Navigation, Plot A, course for the Imperial capital. Maximum stealth approach. Ma'am, Lieutenant Park said hesitantly, our orders specify that we should appear directly in their capital system, in full view of their defenses. Chen smiled. Yes, Lieutenant. We're going to knock on their front door. 12 hours later, 3 human ships materialized in the center of the Imperial capital system, bypassing every sensor and defense network as if they didn't exist. They took position in a perfect triangle around Zephyr Prime, well within the range of every weapon the Empire possessed. Admiral Chen opened a communication channel to the Imperial Palace. Emperor Kethmore, this is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Navy. I believe it's time we talked. On Zephyr Prime, alarms wailed as defense systems that had never failed suddenly found themselves facing ships they couldn't detect until it was too late. In his private study, Emperor Kethmore stared at the tactical display showing 3 impossible vessels holding position in the most secure space in the galaxy. For the first time in his long reign, the Emperor of the greatest empire in galactic history felt afraid. Admiral Chen never saw the attack coming. She was in her quarters aboard the Harmony, reviewing her presentation for Emperor Kethmore, when the ship's defensive systems activated automatically. Through her porthole, she watched space itself tear open as Imperial dreadnoughts emerged from hyperspace, their weapons already firing. Red alert. All hands to battle stations. The ship's intercom crackled with Commander Walsh's voice. Admiral to the bridge immediately. Chen ran through corridors that flickered with emergency lighting. As she reached the bridge, she could see the tactical display showing the attacking force. 57 Imperial ships, including 12 heavy dreadnoughts, and something she'd never seen before, a massive vessel easily 3 times larger than anything in the Imperial Navy. Report, she called. Ma'am, they appeared without warning and opened fire immediately, Commander Walsh replied. No demands, no communication, just weapons fire. Any damage? None to us, ma'am, but they're not firing at us. Chen looked at the tactical display more carefully. The Imperial ships were arranged in a sphere around Earth, and their weapons were aimed at the planet itself. They're targeting Earth directly, she realized. How many ships do they have in total? 537, Admiral. This appears to be their entire battle fleet. Chen felt cold certainty settle in her stomach. This wasn't another probe or test. Someone in the Imperial hierarchy had decided that humans were too dangerous to exist. Admiral, Lieutenant Park, called from his station. I'm detecting massive energy buildup from the unknown vessel. Whatever it is, it's charging some kind of planet-killer weapon. Time to firing? 18 minutes, ma'am. Chen activated the communication system. Earth Defense Command, this is Admiral Chen. We have a situation. President Martinez appeared, on the main screen within seconds. Behind her, Chen could see the chaos of the situation room as Earth's leadership tried to process what was happening. Admiral, our sensors show Imperial ships in Earth orbit. Are they attacking? Yes, madam. President, 500 ships, including a weapon that can destroy planets. They have 18 minutes to charge. Casualties? None yet. They're targeting the planet directly, not our ships. President Martinez was quiet for a moment. Admiral, are our defensive systems sufficient? Chen looked around her bridge. 3 human ships against 500 Imperial vessels, including weapons specifically designed to crack planets. By any reasonable calculation, they were about to witness the destruction of Earth. No, Madam President, not with what we have. Here, I see. President Martinez spoke to someone off-screen, then turned back to Chen. Admiral, You are authorized to use any and all defensive measures necessary to protect Earth. Do you understand? Chen understood. She was being given access to humanity's true military capabilities. Yes, Madam President. Beginning planetary defense sequence now. Around Earth, space began to change. The planet itself flickered and became translucent as dimensional. Shift generators moved it partially out of normal spacetime, but this was just the beginning. Admiral, Commander Walsh said quietly, the defense grid is activating systems I've never seen before. Massive structures materialized around Earth, emerging from dimensional storage where they had waited for decades. Defense platforms, weapons arrays, and devices that defied easy classification took position throughout the system. But the most dramatic change was to the Imperial fleet itself. Admiral, Lieutenant Park reported, the Imperial ships are slowing down, all of them. On the main screen, Chen watched as the attacking fleet gradually came to a stop. Not because they were choosing to stop, but because time itself was moving differently around them. Temporal manipulation field is active, announced the ship's computer in its calm, artificial voice. Enemy fleet operating at 0.001 normal time flow. The Imperial ships were still there, still firing their weapons, still charging their planet killer. But they were doing it so slowly that their actions became meaningless. How long can we maintain this? Chen asked. Indefinitely, Admiral. The temporal field draws power directly from the quantum vacuum. Chen opened a communication channel to the Imperial fleet, adjusting the frequency to penetrate the temporal distortion. Imperial vessels, this is Admiral Chen. You are currently trapped in a temporal manipulation field. Your fleet is experiencing time at roughly 1/1000th normal speed. From your perspective, this conversation is lasting several hours. From our perspective, you've been frozen in time. She paused, letting that sink in. I want to speak with whoever authorized this attack. Several minutes passed before a response came. When it did, the voice was filled with rage and frustration. Human Admiral, you will release us immediately. This is Fleet Commander Nixdal of the Imperial Preemptive Strike Force. We have come to remove the human threat to galactic peace. Fleet. Commander, you just tried to destroy a planet with 8 billion people on it. Would you care to explain why? Your species possesses technology that threatens the natural order. You must be stopped before you can spread your chaos throughout the galaxy. Chen looked at President Martinez on her screen. The president nodded slightly. Fleet Commander Nixdal, I'm going to tell you something important. Everything you've seen from us so far has been defensive technology only. The ships you've encountered, the weapons we've used, the capabilities you've witnessed, all of it was designed for exploration and protection. Lies. No, Fleet Commander. Truth, and I'm going to prove it to you. Chen turned to Commander Walsh. Release temporal field around one of their smaller ships. Let's show them something. The temporal manipulation field flickered, and one Imperial destroyer found itself back in normal time. Immediately, it tried to attack the nearest human vessel. Its weapons had no effect. The Phoenix simply absorbed the energy and converted it into additional power for its systems. Fleet Commander, observe what happens when we respond. The Phoenix fired a single shot from its primary weapon. The Imperial destroyer didn't explode or crumple or vaporize. It simply stopped being a destroyer and became a harmless collection of raw materials, neatly sorted by atomic weight. That ship no longer exists, Chen transmitted. It has been converted to component atoms and arranged in a convenient storage pattern. This process took approximately 0.3 seconds and required negligible power expenditure. Silence. From the Imperial fleet. Fleet Commander, that was also not a military weapon. That was a mining tool designed for asteroid processing. More silence. Now, would you like to see what our actual military technology can do? No. The response was immediate and panicked. No, we understand. I'm not sure you do, Fleet Commander. Let me give you some context. Chen activated a new display showing the readouts from Earth's defense systems. What you're looking at is a partial list of the defensive systems currently protecting Earth. Item number 14 is a device that can remove enemy ships from existence entirely, making it so they never existed in the first place. Item 26 can redirect supernova explosions to any location in the galaxy. Item 43 can accelerate the collapse of enemy suns. This is impossible. No, Fleet Commander. This is Tuesday afternoon for us. Chen looked at President Martinez again. The president made a small gesture. Fleet Commander, I'm now going to do something to demonstrate the futility of your attack. Please observe your fleet's position. Around the Imperial ship's space began to fold. In moments, the entire attacking fleet found itself transported to the outer edge of the solar system, well beyond the range of any weapons they possessed. You are now approximately 50 astronomical units from Earth, Chen transmitted. At your maximum speed, it will take you several hours to return to Earth's vicinity. However, if you choose to attack again, we will transport you to the Andromeda galaxy. The return trip will take approximately 2 million years. The communication channel remained silent for a long time. Finally, a different voice came through. Older, more measured, with the authority of absolute command. Human Admiral, this is Emperor Kethamor speaking from my personal ship. I apologize for this unauthorized attack. Fleet Commander Nixdal acted without Imperial approval. Your Imperial Majesty, I appreciate that. However, your fleet did just try to destroy my home planet. Yes. And now I understand why my scientist told me that was impossible. Chen smiled. Would you care to meet in person, Your Majesty? I believe we have much to discuss. 2 days later, Admiral Chen found herself aboard a human diplomatic vessel that existed simultaneously in 12 different dimensions. The ship could accommodate beings from any environment, while protecting them from the other dimensional effects that would normally be lethal. Emperor Kethamor arrived in a small, elegant shuttle that looked almost primitive next to human technology, but as he boarded the diplomatic ship, Chen realized that primitive might not mean inferior. Admiral Chen, the Emperor said, extending his hand in the human gesture of greeting he'd obviously studied. Thank you for agreeing to this meeting. Your Imperial Majesty, thank you for calling off your fleet. I must confess, Admiral, that your defensive capabilities came as something of a shock. Chen led him to a conference room where President Martinez waited via holographic link. Your Majesty, I'd like you to meet President Elena Martinez, leader of the United Earth Alliance.